Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Today I'm going to be talking about a fairly obscure platformer by the name of Haven Call of the King. I've had it in my collection for quite a while now, and at first I wasn't terribly interested in playing it. But then a few years ago, Retro Gamer magazine published a massive article detailing the making of it, complete with early sketches of the world and characters, and it opened my eyes to just how much work went into making the game. Haven was developed by Traveller's Tales, who are quite well known nowadays due to the hugely successful and prolific LEGO games, but they hadn't started making those back in 2002 when this game came out, and they were more used to working on licensed games, most of which didn't make much of an impact. Haven is a sprawling platform adventure that is continually shifting gameplay styles, but it failed to make much of a big splash when it was released, and is now seldom spoken about. Let's find out why. The game begins with a cutscene between two of the bad guys, where one of them is telling the other that Haven, a slave of theirs, has been having dreams about something called the Golden Voice. Vetch, the main baddie, doesn't want this ancient relic to be found because it could mean the end of his regime, so he sends his flunkies after Haven. We then see Haven preparing for another day of work in the mines. On his way there, he sees his close friend Chess being interrogated by a guard, who sees him approaching and fires at Haven. He misses and causes the mine to collapse instead. When Haven wakes up after being rescued by a friendly weirdo, Chess is nowhere to be found, so he sets out on a mission to find her. It's not a terrible plot, but it's certainly been done many times before. Also, this was planned as just part one of a trilogy, and therefore the game ends on a massive cliffhanger that was never resolved. That's always annoying. The world of Haven is quite impressive to behold, as the 3D environments are quite large and interconnected. It isn't as attractive as Jak and Daxter The Precursor Legacy, which was released earlier in the life of the PS2, but then I doubt it had the budget of that game either. You will venture from villages to mines to factories to ominous castles, all with fast loading times in between. The thing that really lets the side down in Haven is the character design. Everyone looks ugly, including the main character, which isn't great. I didn't find any of the characters endearing, and therefore it was hard to care for them. Haven features some quite nice music, which you should be hearing in the background of this review. For the most part, it's nice and upbeat stuff that keeps the excitement levels up. Good for when you find yourself piloting a gun emplacement on rails and shooting down waves of enemy ships and missiles, for example. There was also some voice acting that is decently acted for the most part, but is a little cartoony. That suits the aesthetic of the game quite well though. Finally, the sound effects are pretty decent, with the likes of bubbling lava, clangs of pickaxes in the background, and blasting sounds when you have a gun. Haven is fundamentally a 3D platformer, although the publishers Midway would have you believe that it is in fact a freeformer, which is a nonsense term that their marketing department came up with to describe the way that the game is continually shifting between different perspectives and styles. This does truly have the potential to be a great action game, but sadly it is just not polished enough to be all that enjoyable. The camera is unwieldy at best and never seems to do what you want, making precise platform sections a bit of a pain in the arse. Also, it is frequently unclear exactly what you are meant to be doing, although if you pause the game you do at least get a checklist of tasks, making it a bit easier to work out what to do next. What saves Haven from being completely unplayable most of the time are decent checkpoints and infinite lives, so even if you keep failing a section over and over again, you will probably succeed if you just keep trying. That's not exactly my idea of a great game though. Massive 3D platformers were actually quite common around the time that Haven came out, and many of them featured minigames that changed the style of the gameplay temporarily, so this freeformer business is absolute nonsense. It is technically quite impressive what the developers have managed to squeeze out of the PS2, but it isn't especially innovative. Because Haven received quite a big print run as a result of Midway expecting it to become the next big thing, used copies of it can easily be found for just a few quid. If you have the patience to put up with the frustrating gameplay, then you could potentially squeeze quite a few hours of entertainment out of this game. There are certainly worse platformers to be found on the PS2. After reading that Retro Gamer article, I was thoroughly intrigued by this game and impressed at the amount of ambition and work that went into making it. Sadly though, the execution didn't match up and we ended up with a bit of an unpolished mess that failed to set the charts alight, killing off the rest of the planned trilogy. I'm afraid I just don't have the patience for rough platformers with dodgy cameras anymore. There was a time that I would have suffered through something like this though. That's it for this episode. I'll see you again next week. In the meantime, take care.